You know what time it is. Time to hang out with Mr. Coop. With Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Cooper. Get the latest scoop. From Mr. Cooper. From Mr. Cooper. From Mr. Cooper. Hang with Mr. Coop. With Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Cooper. Get the latest scoop. From Mr. Cooper. From Mr. Cooper. Yeah.
Welcome to the Big Scoop with Coop. I'm your host, Coop. Big shout outs to everyone that's listening on Apple Podcasts, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, wherever you're listening to. Big shout outs to you. If you want to catch the video version of this show, make sure you go to my website to catch full episodes at thebigscoopwithcoop.com. Also on YouTube at youtube.com/thebigscoopwithcoop. You can also catch a 15-minute preview of this episode right here on Instagram at Big Scoop with Coop. All right, people, enough about me. Today's guest, he is a former NFL player. He played 12 seasons in the NFL. He got drafted in 1989, and he's played for teams like Cleveland, Atlanta, San Diego, broke records, done a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Metcalf. Now, like I said, Eric is a successful NFL player. Also, he was successful in college at the University of Texas. So we're going to kick it with him. We're going to talk to him, talk about his career a little bit, the day of his draft, and more. So sit back and relax and enjoy this episode of the Big Scoop with Coop with Eric Metcalf. Welcome to the show.
Hey, bro. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How's your day so far?
It's going well. You know, I'm in Dallas, Texas. So I had to come down here. My son had a tryout with the UFL today, so that went well. I'm at my boy's house, so it's crazy. I'm at my boy's house, who actually has my jersey up on the wall, and so I was like, I gotta sit here because the jersey's on the wall, right? And so yeah, and so it's perfect.
Representation 101. That's what I call it. Yes, sir. I'm in North Carolina, so I'm enjoying this spring/summer weather. So if you may see a few drops of sweat fall off my head, if you do, trust me, it ain't oil, it ain't nothing like that. The heat is on hell, and that's how it goes down. That's what I'm saying. All right, Eric. So like I told a lot of people in the intro, man, you've done a lot of things, big things, from the University of Texas to Cleveland. You even played for my favorite team at one time, Washington. You actually done San Diego. You've done a lot of things, man. You have traveled over the NFL. I love it. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the first segment of the show. It's called Have You Heard? So I'm going to bring up a topic, see if you heard about it, and put your opinion on it, okay? So we know the 2024 draft just ended real well. Now, have you heard that it was over 700,000 people at this draft in 2024? Have you heard about that? And what is your thoughts of the NFL draft this year?
I actually did hear that there were a lot of people at the draft, like more than most other places I had, right? And so I did hear that when I was watching TV. I was like, I don't know if that's true, but I mean, I know they're talking about how it happened from day to day, but that means it pretty much had to be like 200 plus a day.
Yep.
It didn't really look like it, but if that's what they're willing to say, okay, I'm with it, because you know the draft has come a long way since like when I was drafted. It's like a big show, right? And so it's something that people get into. It makes fans appreciate their teams more because they're more interested in what they're drafting, how they're making their teams better, or sometimes even worse by not drafting people who they think that they're supposed to draft. And so, you know, I like the fact that these numbers are growing and it's helping the NFL.
That's true. So you're correct about that, Eric. So night one, it was 250,000 people there for the first night. Night 2 and 3, I'm not going to put no numbers. Ladies and gentlemen watching worldwide, if you know math, you know it's going to equal up to 700,000, 250,000 plus the next 2 nights. You add it up, you know how it goes down. But that's how it went down. And I'm going to put my 2 cents in real quick. I am so happy about this draft because my team, we needed every single person that we grabbed. I'm not going to lie to you. Washington has been struggling over the years. That's no secret. I feel like now with Jaden Daniels and everybody else coming on, I think that we're going to actually do a flip side on the NFC East. I see it coming.
So wait. You're in North Carolina. Are you originally from DC or something? Or is that the closest team to you when you were growing up?
Well, when I was growing up, I started becoming a football fan probably about 2 years before you entered the draft in '89. So in '87 is when I really became a big football fan. So, the Carolina Panthers was not here at the time.
Right.
So my family, half of my family was Washington, the other half was Dallas. My uncle had this big old poster of the Redskins with Art Monk, everybody up there. And I was like, I got to see what this is about. I sat down and watched the Redskins game, fell in love with them, and never left the team for the highs and lows of the team. Always been a fan.
So I could probably tell you something that you've never known. So I'm born and raised in Seattle. When I was in high school, my dad was finishing with the Redskins. So I actually moved to Virginia. I went to high school in Arlington at Bishop O'Connell. And so during that time, Art Monk lived right across the street from me. Yeah, so I've known Art my entire life, yes. And so when you're talking about Hall of Famers and greats and Redskin lore, Art is one of those guys. And so, yeah, we were really close. And we used to work out together, me, Art, and my dad and everything when I was in high school. And so yeah, I got to experience this kind of stuff. That's just part of, being the son of a former player and trying to aspire to be one of those guys.
Big shout outs to Art Monk. Big shout outs to Terry Metcalf. You think I don't know about you, Terry? I hope you're watching. Yes, I know what you did in 74 and 75. Don't think I don't know. Yeah.
Against your Redskins. Against your Redskins.
I know that. And that's what hurts my feelings. But you know what? He made a name for himself and he did his thing. It traveled on through you. You got TK in the league right now, too. So, I mean, the family, man, it's in the blood, man, for y'all to be on that field. It's definitely in the blood. Big shout outs to your whole family, man. No doubt. Now, for the people that's getting introduced to you for the first time, what was it like to attend the University of Texas? Because you was a 3-time All Southwest Conference selection, and also you was Player of the Year, and you made second team All-American. That was back in '87. What was that highlight for you like?
It was cool. It was fun. I mean, when it's all said and done, if I had to pick a university all over again, I would go to University of Texas. Going into it, I have to admit that I committed to the U. I wanted to go to Miami because just the way it was going down back then in the 80s, right? I wanted to be a part of that. But, I was 17 years old. My parents were like, not going to happen, sir. They would not gonna happen. They would have to sign the papers in order for me to actually go there because I was only 17, and so I couldn't sign the papers myself. And they're like, "You can forget about that. It's not gonna happen." So you might want to tell them that you're not coming, which I eventually did on signing day, and then opened up recruiting again. That's when all the schools started coming back, and so Texas, when it's all said and done, was the right place for me. Even if I hadn't been able to go to Miami, even my parents would have let me, Texas was really the right place for me because I was also a track guy. Yep. And so getting the best of both worlds was Texas for me at that time. And so, going to Texas, although our team didn't win many games, I only won 24 games through my 4 years. So we weren't really that good. And I don't really want to talk bad about other players, but it's just, that's reality. When an old coach of mine told me, when you tell the truth, you don't have to apologize. And so we just weren't that good. But I love being at the University of Texas and playing football. I just wish I would have won more games. And then we're talking about being on the track team. Also, I was able to win 2 national titles. So I had fun doing that as well. So Texas is my spot, and I love it, and I'm Longhorn through and through.
Woo! Woo! That's what I'm talking about. He threw it up. Big shout outs to
Right.
University of Texas. Big shout out to everybody in Texas, except for Dallas Cowboys. I'm sorry, I had to throw that in there. Big shout out to everybody else in Texas right now. You guys are doing your thing. But you know what? I have to say this though, Eric, though, even though if your teams didn't win many games, you stood out like a sore thumb. That's the reason why the league got you, man. You got to admit that. I'm not saying any names, but I'm just saying out of that roster from 87, you did your thing, man. You
Hey,
really
look, and that's all I want to do. You know, when it's all said and done, we can all talk about the fact that we go to these schools and we want to win a lot of football games. But as a kid, you don't say, I want to go to the University of Texas or whatever university and win 12 games. You say, I want to go to the NFL.
That's
Right?
true.
That's what you say. I want to go to the NFL. And so we didn't win many games and I was disappointed. But at the same time, I was doing my thing and I felt good about being able to get drafted in the first round. So it worked out, you know. Like I said, I had fun. It was a perfect place for me. I would have loved to win more games, but I enjoyed it where it got me to where I wanted to be.
No, I feel you on that, Eric. I feel you. We will talk about the 89 draft in a minute or two, but I do want to ask you another question about Texas. So in 2002, you had another milestone in Texas, and that's when you was inducted into the Texas Longhorns Hall of Honor. And in 2017, you made it to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Now, how excited were you to have that to put on your resume?
You know, when this is real talk. When you're talking about someone born and raised in Seattle, you have to realize that in my mind, I never thought that I would be in Texas. Why am I going to be in Texas? You know, for whatever reason. And what's even crazier is that as a young kid, I wanted to play at Oklahoma, which is not good as a Longhorn, right? I was like, because that's all you saw on TV.
Yeah.
And so I saw Oklahoma on TV. I saw Billy Sims. I saw J.C. Watts. I saw these guys running the wishbone, scoring lots of touchdowns, running the football. And that's all I want to do. So I'm like, yeah, I want to be like those guys. But then, fast forward, going to Texas and being inducted to these Hall of Fames, it was really a special honor for me because, like I said, I never thought I'd be in Texas. I'm someone from another state who really, when they say you're in these Hall of Fames, that means you came here and left an imprint here. You left something for people to think about and remember forever. And so we're going to put you in these Hall of Fame. So you have to be excited about that and appreciative of what that was worth.
And you know what, Eric? I think that you inspired a lot of people down in Texas also because they see, everybody knows, well, not everybody, but people knew, you wasn't originally from Texas. And you came in and made an imprint. And you I'm not gonna lie, you've helped a lot of people in the sports world. You have. People have watched your film. People have watched what you have done. I'm not even talking about the NFL level right now. You did your thing. Once again, I'm not trying to sound like a parrot or anything like that, but you did enough to make other kids say, hey, if Eric can do this, I can too. And I believe they running with it to this day. They definitely are.
It's okay if you sound like a parrot. I don't mind because sometimes I need somebody to stroke my ego a little bit.
I feel you. I feel you.
But when it's all said and done, I think what you said about kids aspiring to be kind of like me or like any other player, it goes back to when I was a young kid, and my dad, who, like you said, Terry Metcalf, played in the NFL for St. Louis Cardinals and then the Redskins. He told me, he said, people are going to say you're too small and you can't do this. Don't believe that. If you believe that you can do whatever you want or set your mind to, it will happen. Don't worry about that. I was told that I would never be in the NFL because I was too small. That's what my dad was telling me. And so when he was telling me that, I was like, well, it worked for you. I believe what you're saying. right? And so when you're talking about kids and whatever they're aspiring to be, whether it be football or an engineer or what have you, you cannot let people tell you that you can't do that. As long as you believe that you have that skill to be that person, that's all that matters. And sometimes we believe this and we don't actually reach the plateau that we want to be at. But if we work and aspire to be great, something's going to happen great for us, right?
That's right.
Whatever it is. And so it doesn't matter if you're a football player, it doesn't matter if you're an athlete. It just in life, that's how it is. If you aspire to be great at whatever you want to be great at, something good is going to happen for you.
That's true, Eric. And I tell people all the time, everybody have a season. It's going to come. The only thing is, are you going to give up before your season, or are you going to hold on to it and wait for your season to come and you strive and reach the levels like you've never done before in your life? It doesn't, like you said, Eric, it doesn't matter if you're a football player. It don't matter if you're a plumber. If you keep holding on, you'll be the best plumber there is that's around. It's going to happen. It definitely is.
Yes,
So
sir.
I definitely agree. Now, Eric, let's fast forward a little bit, man. Let's talk about 1989.
Okay.
Now, you were drafted number 13. You were in a Hall of Fame class. Let me just name some of the people that was in your class. You had Troy Aikman. You had Barry Sanders, Derek Thomas. You even had Dion. I mean, you got all of these people. What was it?
Steve Atwater.
Do what now?
Steve Atwater. You forgetting Steve
Oh,
Atwater?
Steve. That's right. That's right. Steve was in it too. Now, I want you to go to the day of the draft at 89. How was your nerves? What were you feeling like that day waiting for your name to be called?
Well, it's kind of crazy because going into that draft, I knew that I was going in the first round. I was never worried that I was not going in the first round. I thought I would be in the 20s, maybe early 20s. My whole thought process was I wanted to go to the Rams. I wanted to go to LA and be a star. Right? I thought I can go out there, play football, score a lot of touchdowns, and be on TV like or movies like Jim Brown. Right? That was my thinking. And it didn't happen. And so on the day of the draft, and I've told this story many times, but on the day of the draft, I told my mom that the Browns traded to Denver Broncos for that 13th pick. They gave up 5 picks. I guess the word on the street was that the Jets were going to draft me at 14. So the Browns traded 5 picks to move up to 13. And so right as I heard the trade on TV, because I didn't go to New York, I wanted to stay in Seattle with my family. I looked at my mom and said, "I'm about to be drafted." And she's like, "Nah." I'm like, "No, I'm about to be drafted." She's like, "No," and I got drafted. And it's really crazy because 3 days before the draft, the Browns came to Austin, where I was at the time, and asked me to work out, and I refused to do it. And they told me, "We're talking about drafting you." I was like, "That's okay." I'm like, "That if you're gonna draft me, you're gonna draft me," because I feel like anything I do, if I don't run as fast as you think I should, or jump as high or what have you, then do you still draft me? I'm like, that's a chance I have to take. Because you've watched the film and you're coming here because you've seen film and you think we might draft him. We'll just go with that. So I never did anything. So I didn't think at the time that they would draft me, but when I heard the trades, I'm like, the Browns are gonna draft me. And it happened. And from that day on, I love being a Brown. I love everything about Cleveland.
Wow. I never even heard this story before. This is my first time hearing this one. That's wow. So let me ask you this, because I want to know on a personal level, Eric. Was it in 89, did they make the phone call before they was about to call your name? Or did everybody just sit there waiting patiently to hear their name called? How was the suspense?
It's really silly. It was about the same time, like right as they were about to, they called me. However, my friend, because back in '89, we're calling landlines.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yep.
We're calling landline. We're not calling cell phone. My friend who I grew up with kept calling the landline. I'm like, why are you calling me?
Busy signal.
What are you doing? Every time you call, I think I'm about to get drafted. Leave me alone. And so I had to deal with that first. And then the Browns called me and they like, we're about to draft you. And I was like, cool. I feel good about it. Because, when it's all said and done, your ultimate goal up to that moment is you want to play in the NFL.
Yes. Yes.
And if you're getting drafted, kind of makes it a little easier. right. Especially if you get drafted in the first round. Right?
Exactly.
Makes it a little easier. We're gonna be honest about this. And so when they called me, I was excited because my dream was to play in the NFL just like my dad. And so, I never thought I'd be a Cleveland Brown. That was the last team I thought I'd be playing for. But you're still happy because you want to be in the NFL. And so I got that opportunity to live my dream. And then after I got drafted, I just kept fulfilling dreams, more dreams.
Wow. And ladies and gentlemen watching worldwide, if you're under the age of 30, and I'm going to explain something why Eric said what he just said. In '89, there was rotary phones. If you're real rich, you had the dial pad if you was rich. And probably only 5 people in America had call waiting, if that was a thing back then. So every time his boy called, and if the NFL tried to call, they getting a busy signal. They can't wait all day long for somebody to pick up their phone because they had a time limit to say yay or nay. And I see why Eric was panicking. So everybody, that's the reason why Eric was ready to slap his friend and tell him, get the off my phone. That's the reason why he was doing it.
No question.
That's the reason why. I had to explain it to them people, man, so they would know. Now, let's talk about it. So the day of '89, the AFC Championship game, your rookie year, you played against the Broncos with John Elway. Yeah. A lot of people knows how it turned out, but how was the nerves of the Cleveland Browns before y'all stepped on field? When y'all was back in the locker room, about to come out, was it a whole bunch of nervousness? Were y'all hyped? How was it before the game even kicked off?
As far as I remember, and even talking to former teammates, we just knew we were going to win that game. There was no chance we were going. We'd already played them in the regular season and beat them.
Yep.
It was in Cleveland, which is always a different environment, because you're at home as opposed to going to Denver and playing it on the road. But we just thought we were going to win. I remember talking to Reggie Langhorne, who's a receiver, and Webster Slaughter, another receiver, and we were arguing about who was going to be MVP of the Super Bowl because we just knew we were going to win. And I was like, I know I'm going to be MVP because I do more than you guys. I return punts. I'm kickoffs, rather. I wasn't returning punts yet. I return kickoffs. I catch the ball. I run the ball. We win the Super Bowl. I'm going to be MVP. It's going to be me. And somebody forgot to tell the Broncos that you're not supposed to win this game. Somebody forgot to tell them. They didn't get the memo. And so, we end up losing the game, and it was a tough game. They jumped out on us, but and then we made a comeback, but then they stretched the lead out. And so, if we played the game up to our full potential throughout the whole 60 minutes, then it's probably a closer game, and we probably have a chance to be in the Super Bowl, which the Browns have never done. But we just didn't play to our full capability, and it didn't work out, unfortunately.
And I don't want to say John Elway was the deciding factor of that Broncos game. I think y'all pissed John Elway off for beating them in the regular season. But your team, I agree with you. I think your team was destined to win that game. I don't even know what happened. But I think y'all was destined to win that game. I remember that game. I definitely do. So I was kind of shocked myself because Eric, you was on fire that game. You were. And I don't understand what happened, how it flipped over or whatever, but I believe if we can have a time machine to go back in time, and you all knew what y'all know now, it'll be in a different scenario. I really do believe that. My personal opinion.
You want to make me cry or something? You trying to?
No.
What are you doing to me right now?
Hey, speaking the truth. I'm just speaking honest truth.
You know, it's it's when you think about that situation. That was my rookie year. We go to the AFC Championship. We win the game. Obviously, we go to the Super Bowl. You couldn't have told me over the next 11 years that I wouldn't make it to the Super Bowl ever. You know, because I'm in the AFC Championship my first year.
Exactly.
I'm just know this is going to happen. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out because, you know, teams change every year. Personnel changes, things change, and players change, and it just doesn't work. Things have to go right, and people don't understand that.
That's
people
true.
don't understand the fact that things have to go right. Got to be a little luck, but things have to go right with your organization in order for you to get to the Super Bowl and then win the championship.
I agree. I definitely agree. It's got to be a perfect lining from the office all the way down. It has to be. Sure. And I hate to bring up my team again, Washington. You guys have seen in recent times, within the last 5 to 10 years, my office was not right at all. Snyder's gone, new management. Yeah, I said it. I can say that. New management. Now things are looking bright side. So I get it. I definitely get it. Now, I'm glad you brought up staff because in 93, you had a new coach. Mm-hmm. And you know who that is. Mm-hmm. And that is Bill Belichick. Mm-hmm. Now, he started using you more on special teams. Am I correct?
I don't know if you could say he used me more on special teams. I became more a punt returner because I didn't return punts my first couple of years because we had Gerald McNeil, the Ice Cube. Mm-hmm. And so he had been doing it. He had been to some Pro Bowls when he was in Cleveland before I got there as a punt returner, kick returner. So I came in and I was strictly a kick returner and he returned punts. When Bill came, he knew that I was one of those guys. And, you know, I talk crazy a little from time to time and just speak my mind. I need to have the ball. I cannot score a touchdown without the ball. That is like impossible to do. You have to have the ball. And I'm one of the most dynamic people on this team. Give me the ball. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you know, and you know, football was played differently back then. And it was smash mouth football. And I'm not the biggest guy. So running in between the tackles, just not my style of football, right? Mm-hmm. And Bill knew that coming from the Giants, because that's how they played. But he said to me, look here, I can't promise you that you'll carry the ball 20 times a game. I don't want to. I don't like getting hit. First and foremost, he said, but I can do this if I can get you close for 20 times, 20 touches a game. How do you feel about that? And I'm like, I'm good with that. He's like, I'm like, how are you going to do that? He said, you can run the ball maybe 10 times, catch a few passes, and return punts and kicks. That gets you to 20. That's the same amount of touches. Now it's up to you to make some plays. I never really, really wanted to return punts because I thought it was the most dangerous thing in the NFL until I actually started doing it. Then I realized that kickoff return is more dangerous than punt return because you can always fair catch.
Yep.
When you're talking about a punt, you don't have to catch the ball. You don't have to touch it. You don't have to do anything, and your team still possesses the ball. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? And so now I can, and they're coming down in waves. So now I can catch the ball, make a guy or two miss, and we're off to the races. And so we had a special teams unit that was serious about getting me touchdowns. And so we would leave, for the most part, our first team defense out there against their special teamers. And so now you have to play against our best athletes, but you're not putting your best athletes out there. So we were able to achieve a lot of good things with that unit. And so I loved everything about being a punt return. I'm actually glad that Bill asked me to do it.
So let me ask this. Do you feel like if this would have happened for you in 91, 92, do you feel like it would have been different stats wise for you? Far as it goes compared to 93.
Oh, 100%. I mean, when we're talking about punt returns, I was the first person to have double-figure punt return touchdowns. Right? And so, and I only returned maybe 12, maybe in my first 3 years. I can't remember the numbers, but it's not that many in my first 3 years. So if I would have had more attempts in my first year, that record at the time probably would have been a little higher. I mean, we can't ever take away from Devin Hester what he did, because when he came in, he made plays and scored a lot of touchdowns, but it might have been a little harder to break
Yeah,
had I
true.
had I done it earlier. And so, I'm not mad about it, because this is just how the team was structured at that time, and we didn't really think about it. And being honest, like I said, I didn't really want to return punts.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so, you look at it differently now that you're older and it's behind you.
Hmm.
And I'm like, damn, if I would have returned punts back then, the record probably would have been higher, but
Yep.
I'm still
Yep.
happy with how it worked out. Scored a lot of touchdowns, had some records, and feel good about it.
That's so true. That's so true. Just a couple more questions for you, real quick here. Got to know. So in '95, there was a trade. Andre Rison went to where you was at. You went to Andre Rison's team. It was Atlanta to Cleveland. Now, how did it feel to go to Atlanta and be just as productive as you were in the Cleveland area?
It felt great, but it was productive in a different way, right? Because
Mhm.
when I went to Atlanta, they moved me to the slot, and then I caught a lot of passes. I still ran the ball from occasionally, but not as much as I did in Cleveland. So it felt good, because when I got traded to Atlanta, I actually wanted to go to the 49ers. I was begging and pleading, trade me to the 49ers. Because in my mind, I saw myself being a Roger Craig type in that offense, someone who rushed for 1,000
Yep.
and caught 1,000. And the Browns had actually given me permission to negotiate a contract with the Niners, because this is where the trade was going to happen. I was told I was going to the Niners. And then the very next day, I found out from Yancey Thigpen. Yeah, I was in Orlando playing in a NFL flag football game, and he was there, and he was like, "You just got traded." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know." He's like, "To the Falcons." I'm like, "Wait, what?" Right? Wait. And I'll go straight in and call my agent, like, "What the hell happened?" Right? And so, then going down to Atlanta and going to mini camp, and I had never played receiver. I mean, I was split out from the tailback position and lining up against safeties and linebackers, which is a lot different than being a receiver and lining up against true cornerbacks.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm going through this, through mini camp and through training camp, and I'm thinking to myself, this isn't going to work. I have never done this in my life. And I know I'm a football player, but I don't know if I can do this. And it just didn't feel right. But then the regular season started, and it just clicked, and it was just on from there. And like caught 104 balls, over 1,000 yards, scored over 10 touchdowns, and it was fun. And we went to the playoffs. And so I had fun doing that, but I honestly didn't think it was going to work in the beginning.
Wow. Wow. Now, Eric, I'm not gonna lie, I understand why, and your mind was set on San Fran, but once again, you did your thing in Atlanta. It shows that you are a valuable asset wherever you go, even down to '97 in San Diego. You did your thing. You made first team All Pro in '97. To think about that, how real quick, how was that? How was that for you when you found out you received it?
It was terrible. No. I must explain. I must explain this. So I'm from Seattle, Washington.
Uh-huh.
Growing up as a kid, the Seahawks didn't exist when I was a kid.
Right.
So my favorite team was the San Diego Chargers. So that's why I was like, I'm going to go there as a free agent. This is my favorite team. I want to go there. We end up being 4-12.
Yep.
So I'm like the only person who ever said they hate San Diego, and it was all because of football. Right. Even though I made the Pro Bowl, I mean, you're obviously happy with that, but I hated the fact that we only won 4 games. And so San Diego just wasn't as bright to me as it was to everyone else.
Good God.
And so it was, you know, I had great teammates, had guys who were working hard for me on special teams to help me score touchdowns and get me to the Pro Bowl. But the whole atmosphere of losing like that kind of put a damper on it. And so I didn't like it as much as I thought I would.
I feel you. I feel you. All right, Eric. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last segment of the show. It is called Take the Floor. Eric, you have up to 2 minutes to say whatever you want. No questions asked. Eric Metcalf, take the floor.
You know, okay, I'll say this. Growing up as a kid, I wanted to be like Terry Metcalf, my dad. He played in the NFL. So my dream was to play in the NFL and be like my dad or even better than my dad. I don't know if I am better than my dad. It all depends on who you ask as to whether you think I am or not. But I accomplished that dream because I got to follow in my dad's footsteps. You know, and along the way, in doing so, I was able to set some records and do some things that people just hadn't done. So with that in mind, I think that going back to my career and a lot of other people's careers, that people should probably appreciate special teams more and start putting more special teamers in the Hall of Fame, right? Because it's such an integral part of the game, and it does a lot for offenses. You know, you're talking about changing field position for teams. I think people need to pay more attention to special teams, and if they did that, then they pay attention more to special teams players, returners, not only Devin Hester, but guys like myself, like Josh Cribbs. You know, there's Dante Hall. There's so many guys that we can name. Billy White Shoes Johnson and Terry Metcalf. There's so many guys who have returned the ball and scored a lot of touchdowns that could probably be in the Hall of Fame just for doing that. I mean, there's Hall of Famers that I'm talking about. Gail Sayers. You know, there's so many people that could Bobby Moore. There's so many people there that we could just talk about that. I think people just need to really sit down and think about these guys changed the game by what they did on special teams. I think people need to show a bigger appreciation for special teams and how it can determine the outcome of the game. And if they do that, then they'll really understand what NFL football is about.
That's what's up. That's what's up, Eric. Eric, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I would love to have you back on in the future.
Hey, anytime. Just let me know, brother.
No doubt, no doubt. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you stay tuned to the Big Scoop with Coop. My next guest on the Big Scoop with Coop is, you know I don't announce my next guest. You better follow me on social media at Big Scoop with Coop to find out who my next guest is. Make sure you check out Eric. Go on YouTube. Eric, how can they follow you on social media real quick?
Man, don't do me like that.
Yeah.
On Twitter, it's Eric Metcalf 21. And on Instagram, it's EM21DAFUL. That is EM2Wonderful on Instagram.
Nice. Follow them on social media so you know what's going on. All right, people, until the next time on the Big Scoop with Coop. Peace.